Hi, Captain Singh. I can hear you.
Hello, Maxi. How are you?
Good,
Nice to see
good.
you.
Hope you're having a good Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on a labor.
Last week we really. Hi, Captain Singh. I can hear you.
Hello, Maxi.
India
How are you?
Independence Day. So
Nice to
congratulations.
see you.
Hope you're having a good Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on a labor.
Last week we really. Hi, Captain Singh. I can hear you.
Hello, Maxi.
India
How are you?
Independence Day. So
Nice to see
congratulations.
you.
Hope you're having a good.
Hi, Akash. I can't hear you. Akash?
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. How are you guys doing? How's everybody?
Good.
Fantastic.
Hi everyone.
Hello,
Sorry.
Puneet.
Hi, Puneet.
Hi sir, how are you all? How's the day going?
Good.
Just a small update. There's a YouTube live also that is happening at this moment. So I've put the link on the chat box. You can share it among your friends also if anyone wants to join through YouTube also. It's there on the chat box. We'll just wait for 5 more minutes and then we'll be starting with the webinar, and it's going to be super informative and super energetic session because of the panelists that we have got with us. We have got people joining from different part of the world. We have people from US, we have people from Dubai. At present, Captain Venkat, it's 1 o'clock over there, but he's still over here. That's a great dedication that he is showing up with. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. I think Rama is not getting even my, when I said hello to him, he could not respond.
So maybe your laptop audio is off. I'll just talk to him once on the. Just give me 1 minute, I'll talk to him. Hello? Yes. No, yeah. So can you just send me a text message on this number? I'll send you the link of it. Thank you. Hello? Yes, sir. Sir, is the laptop audio on? Is the volume of... Yes. Sure.
Do you hear me now?
Loud and clear, sir.
Yes, we can hear you.
Radio
Okay.
5.
Yes, very good. Now it's okay.
Sir,
Not hearing.
Sir, you are on mute, sir.
Me?
Narendra, sir.
Okay. Hello, Captain Rama. I said hello to you, but probably you were mute earlier.
Yes. Thanks. You can call me Venkat.
Okay, Venkat. Okay.
Captain Venkat. Yeah.
Hello, Captain Venkat. How are you doing?
Fine.
I'm Akash here.
How are you? Hi, Akash. How are you?
Good.
So we have Max Minion
Hi.
also with us.
Hi, Max.
Good evening, Captain Venkat. Good,
Hi.
Good afternoon, Captain Akash.
Yes, good afternoon. Sounds about okay.
And it is a midnight here. It is 1 a.m. in Austin, Texas. I'm in Austin.
Oh, okay.
It's 1 a.m.
Have you just arrived there? So are you still like experiencing like some jet lag? So maybe this is the natural time, or have you been there for a while?
No, I'm quite okay. This is the 13th day or something from Austin, in Austin, so no problem. Got used to the timings.
We'll just start with the webinar in about 5 minutes. So till then, can we have a small conversation with all the audience we have over here? I'll just take 2 minutes. We have a few more entries. I've got few messages coming in that they wanted link and something. So I have forwarded them. They'll be joining us in about 5 minutes. So just allow me 5 minutes to start the main webinar of it. Till then, if anyone would like to join, would like to switch on your mic and share your experience. What's your relation with aviation? How are you related with aviation? Anyone from the audience?
Hello everyone. I'm Raj.
Hi, I didn't get your name.
I'm Raj.
Raj. Hi Raj, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Hope all of you are doing good and belated Independence Day. Happy Independence Day.
Wish you the same.
So yeah, I've currently completed my commercial pilot training from New Zealand,
Okay.
from a school called New Zealand International Commercial Pilot Academy. So it's been around 8 months that I've come back and converted my license.
Superb.
So now it's the big question, which type rating to do or not to do, or get into an airline, and that's the biggest thing which is worrying me right now.
Chalo, great. I hope you get the question. I hope you get the answers for the questions you are looking for.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes,
thank you for joining, Raj.
Sure.
Raj,
Thank
which
you.
part? Is it a northern island or a south island?
Yes, it is in a small town in the northern island near Wellington. It's called Wanganui.
Okay.
And Raj, how was your experience? Because I know that New Zealand fully locked down for close to 1.5 years, right? No no new students could go to New Zealand flight schools, and I know that quite a large number of New Zealand flight schools, like L3, for example, which completely closed down. How was your experience kind of finishing your training in 2020 and then a bit in 2021?
Yeah, it was as our school is tied up with conventional as well as the Indigo. So we had the Indigo batch as well who had come there. So our school was pretty much packed. Like we had almost 150 students before the lockdown happened. And then once the Prime Minister took the call of closing the borders and the whole country was shut down, we were in a quarantine just for 1 month. And that's when whole New Zealand, I think, eradicated COVID in the country. And after 1 month, we were free to roam around, so flying kept happening. But the only problem was new students couldn't come into the country, so there was a lot of huge waiting line. Like my school itself had around 1.5 years waiting just to get in. But now New Zealand has opened up, and they are calling batches of 400 students each. So people who are interested in New Zealand can go there now.
I think for 2022, New Zealand, they've put a cap. So in total, 400 international students can go to New Zealand to start their flight training. And based on our research as well, we can see that there's a lot less flight training capacity in New Zealand compared to before.
Yeah, so that's true. That's true. But slowly the numbers are increasing and more students are able to go.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone who would like to
Yes,
share the experience?
hi.
Hi, Sachin. Yes.
Yes, Puneet. Hello, hello to all my panelists. Thank you so much for holding an event like this because honestly, this really seems like the elephant in the room, and everybody's trying to find the answer. Is it going to be the 737? Is it going to be the 320? And there's also that there's this. You know the mix, right? You know the common conundrum that's going on. So similar to Raj's story, I also finished my CPL a while back, and right now I've done all my conversion. I did it from South Africa, and post that the conversion done in India, and after that I'm teaching ground subjects as of now. But this just really feels stuck to be sitting here on the ground and not flying. So that looks like the next logical step. But the question is which way to go, and that's like a huge commitment right there. Because if you choose one, you're burning bridges, essentially. So I really hope I could find an answer to that.
Thank you so much, Sachika, for joining. I hope you get the answers, and we'll try our best to get as many answers as possible from our super experienced panelists on board. It's going to be a great honor for all of us sitting over here getting to have a conversation with them. Alright, so we'll start with the webinar. We have got good number of participants also, and I feel many of us are already over here. So hi, I'm Puneet Baldava. I welcome you all for this webinar on type rating. Is it a safe option? I know we all have been wondering this having the same question. Should I go for type rating? If yes, then which type rating should it be? Should it be ATR? Should it be 320? Should it be 77? Or should I go for any chartered companies? What are the options do I have for those things? So today, we all are going to get answers for all the questions with us. We have got great panelists over here. With that, I would like to start introducing with. We have a retired fighter pilot. He has flown for air ambulance. He has an aviation experience of about 35 years, and he has been associated with cruise aviation at these days. He has a great, inspiring, influencing YouTube channel with the name The Fighter Boy. It's none other than Captain Narendrajit Singh.
Hi everybody. Thanks for those heavy words.
Thank you so much for joining, sir. It's a great pleasure to have you on this board, on this panelist.
Same here. Same here.
So, sir, I would like to have a small question. Like, how was your journey? Like, how was the experience when you were in Air Force? What was the experience that you had over there?
Well, a lot of people have asked me this question before that. Hi, everybody. All those people whom I can see, and some people only names are appearing or numbers are appearing. This question has been asked to me, many number of times, and my answer is the basics of life or basics of flying does not change. Only the environment and the requirements might change slightly. For example, in Air Force, I was flying more of visual flying and target or aim oriented flying. When I have come to the civil, it is more of instrument flying or instrument related flying, and the targets are very clear, but with a lot of other safety factors which were in the Air Force looked after in certain other ways. So basics doesn't change, and aviation remains the same, whether it is the Air Force or civil.
And so, what do you miss in civil aviation, except on the part of flying? What all do you miss of the military life?
Frankly speaking, pure flying, if you talk about, I miss the visual flying. That the moment you get airborne, you want to see your house. The moment you get airborne, you want to see where we were trained in the simulator. So, but that's a distraction. So I am very aware of it and I keep a track of it. But otherwise, there is nothing much, as I said, difference as far as the military or the civil flying is concerned. The basics of flying remains the same, almost the same.
Superb, done. Thank you so much, sir, for joining.
Thanks.
With that, I call the second panelist for now. He was a flight navigator since 1984. He joined CTE Indian Airlines as a performance and navigation instructor in 1988 itself. He became the chief operation and performance of engineering till 2005, and then he was a pilot at Kingfisher Airlines, flown 320 in 2013, and now lastly he was a departmental head at Etihad Aviation Training. It's none other than Captain Venkat, sir.
Good morning and good evening, guys, wherever be the time zone. Do you hear me clearly?
Yes, read you loud and clear, sir.
Okay. So I've joined in aviation in 1979 as a flight ops supervisor. Then some encouragement has come, so I'm one of the rarest civilian to become a flight navigator at the age of 24. I flew in Air India and even to jail for a while. So finally I landed up in Central Training Establishment for Navigation Performance Standards. Then I became head of training there. In 2005, I left Indian Airlines, went to Canada, did for flying in Vancouver, came back and joined in Kingfisher Airlines. And unfortunately, 2013, Kingfisher has closed down. So one of my student and his best friend of mine was a vice president training in Etihad. He dragged me to Etihad, so there I took complete Airbus 330, 340s and 380s.
Amazing.
Then I was SFI, you can say synthetic flight instructor. So by COVID came and I was 64 to 64 and a half. So over 60, everybody was, being laid off there. So I came back to India and have some kind of training associated with. I've taken some endorsement course for 320. While coming out of Etihad, I stepped down from 380 to 320 so that I know that 320 is a big market. So I came down to CSTPL, where the Indigo and CAE in Delhi. So I have taken 2 to 3 batches of endorsement. Right. And also during Etihad, I have trained almost 100 pilots of Indigo guys who had come with the LOI. And they're all started flying now. Some of them are waiting in the loop. So this is how my
Super.
aviation career has been done. And though I'm completely from the civil side, I had an opportunity in CTE. Except me, rest of the guys are from the Air Force. So I had a fantastic time, almost 15 years, or you can say nearly 2 decades. I was working with all the Air Force officers. So, like Narendra ji was saying, so I felt even though I was not from Air Force, those guys were saying, "Thank God you are in the Air Force." Otherwise, I used to be a very strict guy in both the subject wise. But once inside the class, outside the class, I'm
That's
totally a normal guy. So this is how my experience and things went by. Puneet contacted me through one of my colleague who was from Greece, his Captain Theodorus, and Theodorus recommended Puneet to contact me, being an Indian. So this how me and Puneet were, tied up. And he asked me, "Can you help me for this webinar?" So I said, "No, no problem at all." So we've been teaching for 40 years.
right.
So let's share our experience and learn also. At this stage, I'm
Superb.
willing to learn from others.
That's a great
Over
thing.
to Pune.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. It's a great pleasure to have you. It's a great pleasure to have such experienced person who's gonna talk about all the phases and all the different stages of a commercial pilot. That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining. We have someone who has flown for ATR for 16 whole years. He started his career as a FO and he is now an examiner on ATR. Please help me welcome Captain Akash Garde. Thank you so much for joining in, sir.
Hello, everybody, all my panelists, fellow panelists, and hi, everybody. Pleasure being here.
So it's a great pleasure to have you over here. Like having a examiner level person over here. It's a great pleasure. So I would like to ask a small question. What I have heard is ATR has a lot of hard work and lot of flying over there. So was it your choice that you took ATR, or was it out of compulsion, or what was that made you choose ATR? And are you enjoying flying ATR? I mean,
Okay, so yeah, it's an aircraft basically. That's how I'd like to start off with. That is the first thing. Whether I had a choice to pick the ATR or not, let's not go there, because the webinar that we are doing today in 2022, the same question existed when I joined Jet Airways back in 2006 as well. Okay, whether we should be doing a type rating and which aircraft should we be doing a type rating. So that question existed back then as well. Anyways, so yeah, I started off on the ATR with Jet Airways, and as a first officer, a fresh CPL holder. Not exactly fresh, but after about 7 years of getting my CPL,
wow.
that's when I got my first job with Jet. So yeah, and yeah, the ATR basically, yes, it's a beautiful aircraft to fly. Everybody has dreams to fly the jet engines, obviously. So do I. But yeah, it's a beautiful aircraft. It's a very nice transition from your flying school to the commercial aviation part. That's what I like to tell people who I train, is basically it's a bigger Cessna.
Okay.
You know? So that's how I look at it. And yes, it's got more of manual flying involved, more of mental calculations, not so much of automation as on the bigger aircrafts. So yeah, it is fun. It is good fun. It keeps you on your toes. And yeah, and the levels we fly at is all through weather throughout. So all the more exciting.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a great experience, and it's great to have you on this panelish over here.
Thank you. My
Last
pleasure.
but not the least, we have someone who has a network spread all across the world. He has been in contact with various flying clubs. He has been in contact with various TRTOs. He has been a MD for about a lot of years. Please help me welcome Max from Aviation. Max, MD of AFM.aero. thank you so much, Max, for joining in. It's a great pleasure. I mean, his network is amazing, and it's great to see the work ethics that he's having these days. Thank you so much, Max, for
Thank,
joining in.
thank you, Puneet. Really very, very kind words. And thank you for organizing this. Thank you for everyone tuning in. And then especially thank you also to the other panelists for taking the time and sharing their experience with commercial pilots who are thinking about what type rating to do. I have to say right at the beginning, I'm not a pilot. So I've actually never sat in a single engine aircraft. I really like flying. I like flying in the back, so behind the cockpit, but preferably in front of the back. So, if anyone joins here, any of the Middle Eastern carriers or Vistara or so, and you see me on the flight, I would love if you can upgrade me. But my background is, I'm not a pilot, but I come from the banking and from the investment space. And over the years, I started overseeing and being involved with pilot training academies and TRTOs. So I used to have quite a bit of exposure in the operations of a number of different TRTOs across the world. And then now, since 3 years, I'm building a team, and I have digital platforms which do a lot of industry research, so specifically on the latest developments in regards to TRTOs, airline hiring, and we have now become most probably one of the largest market intelligence, like industry research platforms in the world. We supply over 100 airlines with weekly information about what's happening in the pilot training industry, what's happening with simulator training centers, what's happening with TRTOs. And so while I don't have the technical knowledge that our very experienced captains have here on the call, I will try to add as much value as possible in terms of what are all the different options for simulator training centers and TRTOs around the world, as well maybe give a bit of overview in terms of where the industry is currently globally and how we see things going forward in terms of demand for pilots, not only within India, but also within the wider region. So thank you, Puneet.
Thank you so much, Max, for joining. It's a great pleasure to have you over here. With that, these are the 4 panelists for the webinar. Now, I'll just have 2 things. I'll just introduce who is Streamline Aviation Academy and who am I, and then we'll have a small 1 minute silence for Rakesh Junjunwala because it's his demise. It's a very sad thing that has happened, and we couldn't see his baby. Hi Sahara, can you please? Alright, so I'm just sharing the screen. Is the screen visible?
No, not now. It's coming up.
Alright. So, Streamline Aviation Academy was started in year 2020, where everything was down. When whole aviation is down, we thought of bringing in more energy to the aviation and getting things easy for all the aspirants in aviation. We started with the thought of saying that there are a lot of academies. Of course, you'll see there might be a lot of, like 10 of your friends might be having academies, but our thought for starting Streamline Aviation Academy was to give out all the unbiased and honest opinions about aviation, because I know what I have gone through the whole aviation journey till now. I'm an Airbus 320 rated commercial pilot, and I did my flight training in India itself from Bombay Flying Club and Madhya Pradesh Flying Club, and it's a great journey that has been happened, but it has a lot of ups and downs. So my objective, being as a partially experienced, like we have way more experienced person over here, but with my small amount of experience, I want to help all the aspiring pilots and all the stages of aviation to the max I can. And this is the major reason why I have been conducting these webinars. We offer these ground training subject for all the subject that we have to become a pilot. The special thing is we give free consultation also to everyone. If you want to become a pilot, if you want to get into aviation, I'm always there. I'll try to help as much as we can to get you out of that challenge and flourish in your aviation industry. Our aim is to make your journey as easy as possible, solve as many questions as possible, and give the max amount of exposure to you with the present situation of aviation. It's more important because I know every minute that we spend, it's very costly. When you're training, it could cost about 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 every minute. So you are a costly person, and that's how we are going to treat you, and we are very honored to have you over here. We have conducted various webinars in past. We have conducted 2 live aviation quizzes, which was fun. We had sponsors also. Other than that, there was one more webinar that we had conducted in 2021. The name was Aviation After Pandemic, How Safe is the Future, where we had invited 6 different panelists from all different departments, and we had a webinar of about 2 hours live on YouTube also. It was a great webinar, and that was the need of the hour, because like me, there were 1,000 other people who wanted to get who wanted to get the questions answered. So there was one great webinar, and I thank all those panelists and the audience also for joining for that webinar. And our main objective, our main thought process behind all the preparation for the all ground classes or any flight preparation is 90% of the flight preparation happens on the ground. It's only the 10%, that is the execution of the plan, that happens in the flight. So the more you work hard on the ground, the easier the flight is going to be. The more you work hard on the simulator sessions, the easier the flights are going to be. The more you work hard with the manuals of your aircraft, the easier your simulator sessions is going to be, and the easiest is going to be the flight. So I request you all, whenever you are, this is one small advice that I have been talking to myself when I was going for my sim sessions. Study as much as I can before the sim session. Know each and every profile, and the sim session is for a toss. It's very easy. So with that, you can contact me on. You can go check our website. Go through you can email or WhatsApp us, or check us on any other social medias. We are there on LinkedIn and Instagram also. Thank you so much. That was Streamline Aviation Academy with me. Now we'll just do a 1 minute silence for Rakesh Junjunwala. Sir Rakesh Junjunwala, it's a great pleasure to have him with us. Just give me 1 minute. I'll just share the screen. Sir Rakesh Junjunwala, he was he has been the heart of Akasa Air. We all know what has happened, the journey that he has gone through from start of getting a thought of starting an airline, having zero experience from starting to an airline in aviation. That's a huge thing, and that airline has already started its operations. They had the first flight, and then unfortunately things shouldn't happen, but has happened, as we lost him on 14th of August 2020. It's a sad demise for the whole aviation. It's a shock to everyone for us. So I'd like to have 1 minute silence to share the tribute to Rakesh Junjunwala. So you can just close your eyes.
It was 14th August 2022, right?
Yes, sir. So just 1 minute of silence for everyone. You can close your eyes. You can think about Akasa Air aircraft, Rakesh Junjunwala and all. All right. Thank you so much for cooperating with me. Now, now we'll start with the main part of the auction. Sorry. Now we are gonna start the main part of the webinar. That is the whole getting the answers of the question that you have been having for a long time. All right. Before that, I need to see how excited are you for the whole webinar. Are you excited to get the answers of the questions that you have been having? These panelists are super senior. If we do not have any excitement, it's not going to be so much fun for them also to share the knowledge. So can you please put down, share your excitement on the group, give a cheer on the chat box. Let's see how excited are we for this whole webinar. Please, let's. Do we have any excitement over here? Give a cheer if you want the answers of the questions. Superb. That's great. That's great. We have Venkatesh sir, we have got OP for you. OP means overpowered. We've got a lot of excitement. Everyone is super excited to get the questions and to get their answers. Alright. So without any delay, I'll just brief you out about the whole webinar. So the whole webinar is going to be divided in 4 different stages. First stage is going to be deciding stage. Second stage is a pre-type rating stage. Third stage is a during type rating stage. And fourth stage is a post-type rating stage. We have got questions. We had asked questions to all the audience whenever they had filled the form. We have asked for the questions for them. Today we are going to address it, and I have divided every stage with different questions. We'll quickly get on to the stage of deciding of the first stage of the webinar, that is deciding stage. So Captain Akash, I have a question for you. Is how do you decide on selecting an aircraft for, like, if I want to, now that it's a biggest question, I'm planning for type rating, how do I select the aircraft? Is there any criteria for it?
Okay. Firstly, this is the $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, everybody wants to know the answer to this, just this one, and the rest I'm sure falls in place automatically. And this is the toughest one. Like I said earlier as well, I also was faced with such a situation when I was starting off my career. Luckily for me, the demand was more than the supply at that stage. So, I was able to get through the way I got in. Anyways, today, yes, the demand is not so much. The airline operators are not asking for pilots as much as we would like. This is partly just a temporary phase, is what I see it as. That is one. It should be improving, or I can already see some signs of improvement, which have started. So in the next 6 to 8 months, we can hope and see that operators will open up and come out with opportunities for freshers. So yes, to be prepared for this, what we need to understand is there are 2 to 3 types of aircrafts which are in the market, right? It depends where you have done your licenses from. You could also consider those countries if you want. But majorly talking about India, we have the ATRs, the 737s, and the Airbus 320s. So if you see the major players, they all have Airbus 320s. And they have the ATR orders also in place already. Akasa, I believe, is coming up with the 737s. And Jet 2.0 is, I believe, not yet decided. So we're still waiting on what they are planning to get in. So as of today, see, I mean, there is no hard answer to this kind of a question. The right thing that we can basically ask is how quickly you can get a job after getting a particular type rating. So that would, I think, so be an apt question. So if, for example, we say, that I do an ATR type rating, okay, my waiting period in case of an ATR type rating might be shorter as compared to an Airbus type rating, or vice versa. So it's just an example. Personally, I believe that yes, these two aircrafts, the Airbus and the ATR, have got a lot of weightage right now in India, and choosing one of these two would definitely make some sense.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Captain Narendra Singh, sir, would you like to add anything to this stage, to this question?
See, this question, as Akash said, there is no hard answers. You have to go by what is the number of aeroplanes which are available for that particular type, and where is the growth. These two probably things will give you the answer, or probably not answer, the direction, which is a better your aeroplane to choose from. In my last YouTube video, I had tried to answer or address this question. If you see today, Airbus dominates the Indian civil aviation. There are good about 425 to 450 aeroplanes, and on an average, every week to 10 days, one Airbus is added to Indian aviation.
Sure.
So, which means that definitely the clear major operator, major aeroplane which is being operated in India is Airbus 320.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the 737, the only one who is actually flying these aeroplanes is SpiceJet.
Yes.
Not a very expansion mode at right now, and other than that, Air India Express has got some aeroplanes, and Akasa has got 3 of them, and that's it. So if you look at these things, the number of aeroplane wise, there are hardly about 60, 70 or 75 aeroplanes of 737. So if you look pure number wise, 737 does not stand as far as the 320 goes. But the second part comes, where is the growth? Because you probably are also or more bothered about the growth, because that is where you will fit in. All the 320 operators, whether it is Indigo, Vistara, Air India, Air Asia, Go Air, they all are expanding. They all are expanding and have some plans. In fact, the biggest will be Indigo, which has got 700 aeroplanes on the order.
Right.
Vistara has some aeroplanes on the order. Air Asia is going to merge with the Air India, and again is going to have some orders. So that means 320 definitely is going to be there. It is going to expand, and expansion is visible.
Right.
Now, as far as the 737 is concerned, the only hope, or the bright hope, I won't use the only hope, the bright hope, or the brightest of all the hopes is Akasa. As Akasa has shown, in its what they have been coming up in the news is that they are going to add almost one aeroplane every 2 weeks or so. 72 aeroplanes in I think 3 years they are going to add.
Correct, right.
And after that also they said that we are going to add within 1.5 years we are going to order more. So which means, if I look at it, maybe biased opinion that it's another Indigo in formation, then 737 is not a bad bet at all, in case they achieve what they want to. So if you look at it, both have got good amount of future, but 320 stands because it has a future in writing, or future which is absolutely clear seen. 737 has got a future which is likely to take place, but still not proven on ground. So that is the only minor difference.
Right.
But along with that, I would rather want to add, if you look at the Indian civil aviation market, if you look, and even bigger picture, if you look at the Indian industry or the GDP or the economy, the things are going to grow, and going to grow very rapidly, and aviation is going to go faster than what the economy is growing. The number of people who are flying in India are very few, just about 2 to 3%. So that means with the economy grows, civil aviation will grow very fast. Both 320 and 737 are a good option. 320 is a marked and visible option. 737 is likely to have an option. That's it.
That's great, sir. Thank you so much for this great insight. I mean, that small differentiation of why 320 and 77 there's a brighter future, that must have helped our audience to get a bit clarity. A big disclaimer to everyone. Um, Today, whatever we are going to discuss, it's just a personal opinion, or it's what we think. Please do not take it as this is what we have heard and this is what we have to do, and this is just a discussion that we are doing. There is no final result that we are saying that this is what you have to do. This is not what we are trying to say, or this is not the objective of our webinar. Alright. Next question is for Max. We have, so since you have a big network with you, you have been talking to a lot of TRTOs. So what all are the things that one needs to check before deciding a TRTO?
Yeah. Puneet, I just have one question, maybe to the other panelists, because Captain Narinda, exactly as you said, currently you can really see there's a very large fleet of Airbus A320s. There's a very large order book for A320s. And I think me as a non-pilot here, I would like to ask this question to our other panelists, because based on my understanding, based on my research, also the majority of commercial pilot license holders in India are going for an A320 type rating. Does that mean also that the competition for new roles to join in on A320 is significantly higher than maybe for ATR and for Boeing 777? And maybe, what are your thoughts on that specific question?
Okay, so may I?
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
All right, that's a very interesting twist that you put in. Let me put it that way. But yes, it is definitely worrisome that also at the same time that a lot of people are going for a particular type rating only. And yes, let's get down slightly to the basics. Like Captain Upal was saying, that there are a lot of ATR orders pending with Indigo, and I'm sure Vistara and Goair is also on the expansion spree pretty soon. What we need to understand is every one aircraft that an operator gets, you need about 5 sets of crew. Okay, so one captain and a first officer is one set. So we need about approximately 5 sets of crew depending on the operations. That's a rough average number. So if you are ordering, say, 100 aircrafts, you need about 500 sets of crew. So that means 500 captains and 500 first officers. So now there are no captains readily available in the market. You have to make them. First officers can come in with type endorsements and type ratings and start a job, but then initially they can join as first officers, and later on they have to be groomed and they become captains. So basically there is internal progression which has to happen, okay, when there is more requirement. So having said that, it depends on the number of aircrafts that an operator is trying to get in. The expansion plans that they have, the rate at which they're planning to expand is also something that definitely helps, in understanding what aircraft type rating you can choose for. Just for example, I can tell you about the ATRs. Right now there are about 1900 aircrafts, 1950 aircrafts flying. The projection that ATR has also given in the next 20 years is that they're planning to, that number plans to go up to about 2,500 aircrafts. So this includes the replacements of the older ones and everything, and still there is an increase of about 600 aircrafts approximately. So you need about 6,000, whatever, 600 into 5 sets is what? 3,000 pilots, 3,000 sets, easily. Just in Asia and Asia Pacific. So, and there are only 2 or 3 operators majorly who are operating in operating the ATRs. So there definitely is growth, and yes, like Captain Upal also said, 737 market in India right now, yes, there seems to be some growth, but it might take time. See what operators plan and actually practically what they are able to implement is something different. like we've seen Indigo also, they initially started off with an order of 450 aircrafts, but then, you know, as the operations started and things started rolling, practically they started facing issues or whatever it was, that differed slightly. So you have to factor that in as well when you are trying to choose an aircraft. So like I said, there are a lot of factors, a lot of various things that you need to consider. But the first and foremost, as an ab initio, as a newbie into this field, the first thing that I need to see is how many aircrafts are there in this market that I'm aiming at.
Right.
That is the first thing. Okay. And what kind of growth am I looking at? That's how I would look at it.
Okay, two things. Firstly, I am Captain Uppal also. A lot of people must be saying, who is Uppal? Okay, I am Narinder Jeet Singh Uppal. Okay. Secondly, Max, your question was, if I understand correctly, is it your question is that Airbus is taking the complete market vis-a-vis, Boeing? Am I correct?
No. So my question is, I think everyone knows that, you know, Airbus is the dominant force in India, but based on all of the information that we track, there's really two things which stood out for me, kind of in the Indian aviation market, and also in the demand from commercial pilot license holders. The first thing was that the hiring. That's when hiring for first officers started again in India. The first type that was hired on was ATR. And Captain Akash, please correct me if I'm wrong on this. The second thing that I really see at the moment is that because everyone knows that Airbus is the dominant aircraft in India at the moment, Airbus A320 in terms of narrow bodies, what we're seeing across the world as well is that the majority of Indian commercial pilot license holders is going to do their Airbus A320 type rating. So the question for the panel is, especially when commercial pilot license holders are doing their research and they're seeing, okay, all of these different training centers are type rating for Airbus A320. Does that mean if I apply for a role for ATR or for Boeing 737, that there might be less competition in terms of the number of applications for that specific type?
Firstly, unlike the developed aviation markets like US and all that, there are rules that 1500 hours are required before you get into an airline. Unlike that, India is for last few years it was expanding at breakneck speed. The number of pilots available were too less compared to the number of cockpit vacancies. So which led to that people with 200 hours were sitting on the right side with me as captain, and first officer has just 200 hours. He was 205 hours, 207 hours. No, these kind of flying experience were sitting on the right in the cockpit of a 320, which is not the case in US and other developed markets, because people graduate from the aviation school, they go and fly either as instructor or in general aviation, build up their hours, and then probably come into a 320 or a 737. For that matter, they might go to ATRs also. So that ATR thing has been missing for most of the time in Indian aviation, because if you see, ATR is more appropriate for where load is less, the distance is less. And when the distance was more, people were harping on or were first catching that market. But as that market is being I won't use say saturated, but is being exploited more and with more and more players, slowly it will shift towards the ATR also. This is my thinking. Maybe in 2, 3, 4 years you will find the ATR also will have a big role to play, especially towards the northeastern India, where the distances will be short and people, because of hillocks and hills and mountains, they want to use the ATR to hop across or use the ATR in that short sectors. But for the present scenario, where the experienced pilots are still in short supply, you find that all the operators will still be going towards the narrow body, that is 737 or 320. So ATR will take probably some time, will come as the market grows and settles down. The second question that people are doing rating. See, people doing rating is dependent on where the vacancy is. I do not do rating of 737 if in case the 737 is not hiring, or vis-a-vis in case I will not do a 320 rating in case 320 is not hiring. So people are looking at now, CASA has started adding airplanes. So now I am getting in cruise aviation, carry that, shall I go for 737, type rating? By the way, we have tie-up with both 737 and 320, both, rating. We organize their sim sessions, tie-ups and everything. And for 320, we do classes also. So the point is that it depends on the vacancy which is being created, because CPL with 200 hours are good, about 4,000-5,000 pilots are still sitting on ground. Some of them are on this webinar who are looking for the answers. So the answer comes from the where the vacancy is. With the Akasa coming up, some people are going for 737 also off late. But otherwise, if you talk about 6 months back or 5 months back, 737 was not on the horizon anywhere, because nobody was hiring. People are, the SpiceJet was not, expanding anymore, or not visible, where they were hiring. And second was the Air India Express are also almost on the fixed number of aeroplane and not expanding at all. So obviously 320 was the only options. I hope I have answered, Max, your question.
I was really just thinking of adding this twist of CPL holders. Yeah, Captain Akash, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. So just to add to what has already been said, like your question. So if you just go back to what I said earlier, all type ratings will give you a job. Let's understand that. Okay. You do a 737, you do a 320 or an ATR, you will get a job. The only now concern is when. How much of waiting period would you have after completing a type rating? That is something that you need to be now looking at. Because 737, definitely, yes, it's coming up, Akasa is coming up, but then we also need to understand that there are pilots who are already rated and experienced, sitting on ground, waiting for a good opportunity. So obviously they would be the first ones to get absorbed into a company like Akasa or even Jet 2.0, depending on which aircraft they get. That also is something that you need to factor in. So,
sorry.
Yeah. No,
just want to add one thing, that, though what Akash said is correct, they will find some job. But the point is that, doing an, rating is like buying a, telecom SIM card. You pay money, everything has a validity. PPC has 6 months, IR has 1 year, total validity of the, IR is, the rate is 3 years. So we cannot, say that in some time we'll get a, job. No, please do your homework. Yes, little amount of risk is involved, like which 737 or 320, but do your homework before you decide on. Okay. Thereafter, you leave it to, the market situation. But do not go blindly. Any aeroplane, you do a type rating, and then hope like hell that I will find, because it's related to the timelines also, and in a big way.
Right. So, Captain Venkat sir, would you like to add anything to this question?
Yeah. This question is, we can say, as it were, is condition, it is a volatile. And some airlines are not doing well, some airlines are doing okay, and some airlines are coming up. So with all this, and what Max was saying, competition, in my mind, that you see, we can't say that you go now, take a 320 endorsement or 737 or ATR, and you will get the job within 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. It is impossible to say that.
Okay.
But in the Indian market, if you see the ratio wise, E20, as it were, its condition stands a better chance. And 65% of the aeroplane is from the Airbus side, and followed by ATR. ATR and Airbus, it is almost like a child. But Boeing is something which is totally different. And what I can say is that it is good for Boeing guys since Akasha had come. On the other hand, some of the operators which is having 737, if they are not doing well, then the market is going to be, you will get stuck. So if you have this kind of weather industry, how it is doing, it is very difficult, it is volatile, and we shouldn't be misguiding people that you go for this endorsement. It's not right at all from our side. It is something which the ratio is at the moment, if you see, the ratio is very high in the case of Airbus,
Right.
and in the case of Boeing, it is almost half the chances of Airbus.
Correct.
Based on that, we can say that the opportunity, supposing if you have a demand and supply, I have 500 pilots in A320, as Max was saying, and I have only vacancy of 100, is 1:5, whereas I have a vacancy of 10 and I have 30 endorsement I got from 737. The ratio is 1:3. Is 1:5 is better or 1:3 is better? So this is how Max is putting, if I could able to understand correctly.
Correct.
But this cannot be quantified at all. According to me, let's see for next few years, 3 years, we are sure that Airbus is holding the fort. So guys who are going, and being a pandemic, and we are going to bounce back. So probably 2023 to 2024 is the best time for all the guys. You stagger to go to an endorsement, even up to this stage is quite okay. Now this is the right time to go for any endorsement according to me, but depending upon initially for first few years,
Correct.
maybe couple of years, Airbus chance, it stands a better chance. That's it. And in fact, I can put it Airbus, ATR, than 737 as it were is condition now.
Got it. That's a great input, sir. I mean, it's just about how much risk are you willing to take and how long can you take that risk. Maybe if I might be putting it in correct words. I mean.
Correct.
So,
And Puneet, to answer your question in regards to all the maybe some of the factors to consider when selecting TRTO after one has an idea kind of which path they would like to go in terms of aircraft type. I think one of the key things right at the beginning is to really see kind of, okay, what is the training infrastructure for that specific type where one has an interest in. And then first look within India, and then also within the region, and also further ways out. At the moment, we're seeing Indian commercial pilot license holders doing their type rating all the way from Spain, really like far in the west, and then going eastwards all the way until Indonesia and Australia. So the Indian market is, and even before the pandemic, has always been such a, let's call it, a lot of people in the industry refer to it as a sleeping giant, that, you know, when it starts growing, it takes up so much, it grows so quickly, and it fills up so much demand across the different training centers.
right.
On that point, one of the key things that we really track, and I just want to support what Captain Narinda Upal was saying, since 2015, we've followed the Indian market quite closely, and the statistics that I always share is we always like to compare China and India from a population standpoint. So China and India have both 1.4 billion people. All of the Chinese airlines operate around 6,800 aircraft. So your Air China, your China Southern, China Eastern, all of the airlines in China operate around 6,800 aircraft for a population of 1.4 billion people. India, which has the same population, currently is operating, and please correct me if I'm wrong, other panelists, around 700 or so aircraft. So this is why I think all of us here on the call agree that this coming decade will be the decade of the growth of the Indian aviation industry, because it is supported by fantastic initiatives by the Indian government in terms of building out all these different airports, tier 2, tier 3 cities. So in terms of demand, we're really seeing that high growth potential, and this high growth potential is filling up simulator training centers within India and around the world.
Correct.
Yeah. So two things before I answer, Max. As Captain Venki said that we are not very clear that which this thing. My answer to or addition to that would be, if you get a LOI, that is letter of intent from anybody, any airline or any respectable airline rather, which is either 737 or 320 or ATR, just go for it. We are deciding or advising people who do not have a LOI and are talking about going on their own totally without any LOI. Okay, coming to Max, your this thing, I totally agree with you. As I've said earlier, we are at a very nascent stage as far as civil aviation is concerned. The way it expanded about 5-7 years back, similarly the simulator thing is also at a very nascent stage. The number of TRTOs available in the market are very few, and they are almost booked. So that is why the cost of doing a simulator rating in India is higher than what you have to spend outside. I am talking about going, coming back, eating there, accommodation, everything included. Still, you will save money in case you go abroad, because Indians are already booked. So why will they reduce the cost of rating in case he is already heavily booked by the airlines in India? So coming to that, as I said that we are doing the the tie-up for the classes and the rating everything. We find that it's easier or it's cheaper to go abroad and do it compared to doing within India by good about 2 to 3 lakh rupees.
Correct. Right. Thank you so much for the suggestions and for the opinion. That's great to have these many insights. I feel our audience are already getting the answer that they have been looking for. Now proceeding on to the next stage of it is it's pre-type rating stage, wherein alright. My first question for Captain for Captain Venkat is, I mean, we have got a bit of answers of these questions, but when you're going for the type rating, what all things that you need to prepare so that you are there when you start your type rating? What all things you think is important? Any referring of manuals or any memory items or anything else? What's your point of view, since you have been training for a long time? Can you hear me, Captain Venkat?
He can't hear you. You want me to answer that?
Yes, if any of our panelists could answer that question.
Okay, I don't mind answering it.
Yes, sir, please, sir.
Okay, fine. Just because I am involved in from cruise aviation in these steps, so probably I am quite clear about it. See, a type rating, especially if you're going after 200 hours, when you're flying those 200 hours, you are flying in a Cessna, a single engine or maybe multi-engine, but single, pilot. The coordination which is required between the two pilots is not required, or it is not a necessity at that stage. But when you go to a bigger aeroplane, that is the first thing that you require. That means who is supposed to do what. That means the PF, the pilot flying, what he's supposed to do. The PM, the pilot monitoring, what is he supposed to do. Secondly, when you're flying a small aeroplane like Cessna or Tecnam, it's a very small aeroplane, very few systems. So you just go through them, brush through them, and you are aware of it. Whereas flying a big jet like 320 or 737, it is carrying 200 people. It is as good as carrying a mohalla with you. Where is the generator, how much of plumbing line is there, how the water is coming different houses, where are the wiring done. So there is a huge thing to learn about. But my point is, a airline of 737 or 320 has got a lot of systems on board. So because it has got 2 crew, lot of systems on board, there is a way to do things. So when I say way to do things, that means everything has been streamlined. How the information will come to you, that may in case of abnormals, and how to decipher it, how to look after, the different aspects. That means what is the procedure to be followed to carry out your handling of that abnormal. For that matter, even normals also. So there is a procedure for everything. So those procedures, though practice will be done in the fixed and the moving simulator, but you are supposed to be aware of it, what exactly is to be done. So what exactly is to be done? Either you go through the manual, somebody tells you, or you take formal classes. The choice is yours.
Correct.
But I tell everybody, please prepare well before you go for your simulator, because you can practice there. There is enough time to practice, provided you are aware what to do. If you go stand up there and then say, now I'll open my book and see, no, time is not sufficient. So please prepare well before you go for your type rating.
Right. So, Captain Akash, would you like to add a few things to it, if you may? Like, is there any if we could give any 2 or 3 actions for all the during the pre-type rating stage, what could be those 2 to 3 actions that an aspirant should do it before they go for type rating?
Okay. Let me just tell you first thing that flying is not rocket science. Okay. You do not need to have a PhD. You need not need to have a doctorate before going for flying. Let us understand this very basic, very clearly. Governments all over have asked for 10+2, okay, as an educational qualification. The only requirement is basically your understanding of physics and maths, because these are the 2 most important subjects which actually based on which an aircraft actually flies, and which these 2 subjects which are going to be of use to you. Okay, so this is the very basics of the whole thing. I'm sure 90%, 95% of the people here know about this because they've already done their CPL. So I don't need to go into the details, of how laws of physics apply in flying. So having said that, when you are now, once you've decided on your type rating, what aircraft you're going to go for, there are going to be stages. Okay. The first stage is basically ground school. The second stage is going to be simulator if you're doing a type rating, right?
Right.
Basically, now here what happens is, in ground school, you will be taught certain subjects, okay, or the FCOMs, the FCTMs, and everything will be shared with you. First, you will be taught about all the systems, okay. Plus, you will be given the FCTMs and the other manuals also for you to prepare on your own time for simulators. So the idea is to understand these systems as well as possible beforehand, before you head into the sims. Okay, like one of your slides said that 90% of work is done on ground, right?
Yes.
Or 80%, yeah,
90%.
whatever. Yeah, 90% of work is done on ground. So everything has got a homework part.
Correct.
Okay, so once you tackle that, the next stage becomes simpler. Okay, so I don't want to put pressure on people by talking about, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. There will be guidance given to you by the TRTOs, by the ATOs themselves, or the trainers who are teaching you or imparting knowledge there. So that is something that you need to bear in mind. And coming back to your question, well, what do I suggest? I suggest you just go with the flow initially.
Got it.
Okay, because when you go to these TRTOs and ATOs, they are going to teach you based on the manufacturer's training philosophy.
That's good.
Okay, and then once you get into an airline, then the airline teaches you again based on their SOPs and their philosophies, okay, or their requirements. So the ATOs and TRTOs where you do your type rating is going to be very generic. It's going to be very generic. So the idea is to understand the aircraft as much as possible in this phase itself.
Okay.
So that when you actually join an airline, you don't have to spend time into going through all that, because there will be other things which need to be tackled with.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's how I would go about it.
Thank you so much, sir. It's a great answer that we have got. Captain Venkat, do we have you over here? So not yet audible. So not audible. Not yet, sir. We'll get back with Captain Venkat in a while. Max, I have a question for you. Is what we have seen till now is there are specific countries that has been very famous for the TRTOs for doing any typewriting. So would you like to suggest any country or like any place where this could be a good option to do your typewriting, or anything that you'd like to add on those points?
Yeah, so I am not going to give a specific recommendation for a specific country, but I just want to share with everyone kind of the maybe research framework and maybe some highlights of things to consider, what could be options for simulator training depending on the different types. The first thing I want to share with everyone is to see what is available in India. As Captain Narida Upal has said, simulator training centers in India are actually quite highly utilized. So usually when they offer external typewriting, it usually comes at a high cost point. But it really depends on kind of the utilization of those different simulators. And there's also additional simulators which are constantly being added to the Indian domestic simulator training industry. So to give a couple of names and to give a couple of points to maybe look into, in India you have the Air India training center in Hyderabad. What most people might not know is that they also offer individual typewriting for external non-Air India pilots or commercial pilot license holders. Airbus India, so the Airbus India Training Center in Gurgaon in Delhi. You've got FSTC, you've got CAE, and then you've got another new simulator training center which is about to launch. I don't know the exact date when it will launch, but what I've been told is that in the very near-term future, so that will be another independent player which is accepting, which could offer Airbus A320 type rating. So that's in India. And then if we look abroad, what we're seeing really is we're seeing Indian CPL holders going for type rating all the way in Spain, with, for example, BAA, Baltic Aviation Training in Spain. We see it in Lithuania. We see it there's an option in Milan. People are going to Bahrain, to Gulf Aviation Academy. People are going to Etihad Aviation Training. People are going to Pier 7. People are going to Australia, Ansett Aviation. People are going to GTA Training in Jakarta. So it's really... Sorry?
To Jordan also, like there's one more addition.
Jordan, yeah, JTC, Haiti, and Singapore. So there's Turkey, Istanbul, a simulator training center called IFTC. So there's really a very, very wide range of simulator training centers outside of India. And in India, the number of simulators, specifically for A320, is increasing as we speak. So there's another few Airbus 320 full flight simulators which are in the process of becoming RFT ready for training. So when someone evaluates kind of where they are going to do their type endorsement, it's really to kind of look at all these options, and then especially when going abroad, something which I recommend as well is to speak with individuals such as Captain Narendra Upal, who are experienced in creating batches, creating groups, and are very well aware of the process of sending individuals to these different countries who can assist in that process and bringing the license. And lastly, what I would say, when evaluating all these options in all of these different countries, you would see there's a wide range of pricing difference. And another thing to really take note of is also to take into consideration the visa processing time, because if someone goes to, for example, Istanbul, getting a visa for Turkey could be significantly quicker than getting a visa for the European Union, or vice versa. So there's all of these different factors to consider.
Got it.
Do you hear me clearly now?
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So, would you like to say anything about this stage of it?
I think in the deciding stage, I think I have lost my chance.
No. So, I have a better question for you. We'll go to the next stage, and the next stage is where we'll be needing a lot of input of yours. It's during type rating stage.
Before that,
Yes, sir.
in the deciding stage,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to share something very, very important as far as the training is concerned.
Uh-huh.
Be a ATR, B737 or A320, the entry for the guys who are coming from Flying Club, I've been as a trainer for nearly 25 years on the type rating. We have found out that the entry level, most of them are very weak in instrument flying.
Oh, right.
So, before going to the type rating, I advise whomsoever has done the CPL, either in India or in abroad, please revise your subjects and make sure that you are proficient enough to do the approaches, instrument approaches. Otherwise, they are going to lose their race in the type rating itself. Be it is an ATR or be it is Boeing 737 or 320. Second thing, in the Flying Club, we mostly develop a habit of single pilot flying. We don't develop that much of thing. What is airline requirement? In airline, so far we haven't got into the single pilot training. So, fairly on multi-engine when they are doing it. So people have to understand that there is a pair. Two people are operating in the cockpit. So they need to have a multi-crew coordination as well as jet orientation. These two things, whether the TRTO does or not, it is a very vital point to understand that on the deciding stage itself,
Correct.
they should be proficient enough to go through the multi-crew training, MCC and JOT. Before even pre-type rating stage, I recommend that. It's my considered opinion, and 99.9% statistics shows the people who are not good at it, they face every problem in every stage, not only for getting an endorsement, even getting a job. Even if they get the job, they always get into problem of getting into the airline for the first simulator check.
Correct, sir.
This is about the deciding stage.
Thank you so much.
Second one is pre-type rating. What is my question? What was my question? I'll cut short. What was my question on pre-type rating stage?
So the question that I had for you is, I lost the question. I'll get back. I'll recollect the question and I'll get back to you with the question that we had. Uh, with with that, we
Okay.
go to the next stage. That is during the typewriting. What all things to be taken care during the typewriting stage of it. So, Captain Narendrajit, sir, I would like to ask a question to you: is how can they use the whole typewriting to the best? What is like if you could name three things that the the trainee should do for during the typewriting so that his flights in an aircraft goes very smooth. So what all those three things could be?
Okay, if you look at it, we are doing a type rating basically to, at the end of it, we're going to fly an airliner. So that is why we are in the simulator to do the type rating. Now, when you're doing the type rating, the things that you have to keep in mind, is, as I said, if you have done your homework and you have, studied well, not only from the CBT, but little more into detail, your understanding while doing the type rating will be very high. That means if you are well aware of when the instructor is talking, you will grasp more things. But if you are struggling with the basics, then probably instructor also will not be able to tell you the level 2 or level 3 thing of the same emergency or same procedure.
Right.
So it's come back to the same thing, that please prepare well before you go for your type rating. The second thing that you have to practice, or that you have to keep in mind at the type rating is that, as Captain Venki has said, you please practice your approaches. That means that is where the crux lies. To do a good approaches, again you have to be clear about the procedures, and to be clear about the procedure, again it gets back to the books. So practice on ground or studies on ground. So if you are clear about what switch selection, why that switch selection, you find that approaches will be better. And you have to pay attention towards manual flying, because invariably what happens is that people, now these days autopilot is the in thing, even in the training stages also. So people have started relying more on the autopilot, press the autopilot and actually have done a flight. No, the manual flight ultimately is the saving grace, because if everything fails, your own ability to put the aircraft on ground will help you. That is what they are going to check you. For doing that, the knowledge and the practice both will come very, very handy. So these are the things that you have to keep in mind. That is, prepare well on ground before you go. Be aware of the things so that you can grasp things in the simulator more. And secondly, in the simulator, or for that matter, a step before, when you are flying, you're doing the CPL, please practice your instrument flying so that your handling of the aeroplane is much better. Basically, you're still an aviator. Even with so much of automation, everything, so many computers on board, everything can fail. So only thing that people rely, or any industry or a airline rely, is the pilot. If everything fails, you are the one who are going to save the things. So to do that, you have to have the skill to fly the aeroplane, even with the handicaps of the emergency. So these are the things from my side.
Thank you so much. It's great to get the to do things, and finally we know what is the most important thing for us. So next question for Captain Akash is, sir, would you like to add anything to the question when you're flying with your first officer? Like we have had questions, we have said that we have 200 hours pilot, 300 hours pilot, very amateur pilot, very new pilot, fresh pilot. So what three advice would you like to give to those pilots to get the game up and be at the proficient level?
So are we talking about during the type rating stage, or
Yes, so-
once you've been absorbed into an airline or something like that?
So-
Or what is the scenario?
So what I was thinking is, whatever has to be done on the flight is always practiced on the simulator. So what are the three things that you would like to suggest to all the aspirants that they should work on in the simulator session, which will help them to get their flights a bit easy, or relatively a cakewalk for them? What can be done in the sim sessions?
Okay, so so now basically when you are doing your type rating, It's very simple. It's a multitasking scenario. Yeah, you will be doing about 8 or 10 sessions, followed by the checks and everything, depending on what stage you are at. It each session basically helps to build you up for the next level, right? So you won't be given an engine flame out in the first session itself. Okay, so first session probably you'll have more of handling without the autopilot, small emergencies, small system failures or something like that. So you need to, first and foremost, you need to know your systems. You need to know your aircraft before you hit the simulators, because simulators is something where you need to now practice flying the aircraft and implementing and applying whatever knowledge you have gained in the ground school. Okay, so it's going to be a mix. Plus, like Captain Venkat said, that you also would need to apply your basic CPL knowledge of instrument flying as well at the same time. Okay, so you don't have time to actually, brush up before every session. So there are certain things, like Captain Venkat said, instrument flying, it has to be in the bag. You cannot spend time during this stage to go over the instrument flying and understanding an approach plate. Okay, you cannot make mistakes in an approach plate now, which is very basic. Since you're a CPL holder, it is expected of you to know these things, these basic things. Okay, a type rating basically is now the next step. So where whatever you've learned in your CPL scenario, you use that, implement it here, as if and it is accepted and understood that you would be knowing all this. Okay, so when you move to an airline scenario also, I am not looking to train you for instrument flying anymore. Okay,
Right.
you come to me as a type rated guy. Yes, Captain Gopal.
So you can't
Okay.
you complete after that, Narendra sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, yeah. So once you come to an airline and you're a type rated person, you'll be going through an OCC course. That's an operator's conversion course, which would have probably just 1 or 2 sessions depending on the break that you had. Okay. So you won't have much time to brush up there and prove your skills. Okay. So you have to be on the ball throughout. So coming back to your question, yes, basic things, you have to multitask. So your CPL level stuff is something that you are required to know. Your aircraft systems and understanding is something that you're required to know. Your procedures, your FCTM procedures, SOPs, task sharing and standard procedures is something that you're required to know. And the fourth thing is actually handling the aircraft. So these are the things, and it is going to be an amalgamation of all these things when you go for your sims.
Right. That's great. Thank you so much, sir. Now, thank you so much for the insights that you had given, Captain Akash. We have Captain Narendra who had a few things to add on to it.
I just want to add one more thing. The two things I already mentioned, that one is the ground studies and good preparation. Second was the instrument flying experience. Third thing, which actually at the end Akash also mentioned, that is the procedures. Be very clear about your procedures. For example, if you are on 320, if you are doing ECAM handling, you should be absolutely clear who is supposed to start what, who is supposed to do what between the pilot flying and the pilot monitoring. Which means to say that firstly you have to be absolutely clear in your mind that why we are doing that, the separation of the procedure, what procedure is being followed, and then please follow it meticulously. That not only helps you to handle the emergency comfortably or correctly, the examiner will also pass you only if you follow that procedure. If somehow you land the aeroplane but do not follow the procedure, then you will not pass, because procedure is the one standard thing which has to fit into every emergency. So that is the basics or the bedrock thing on which emergency is put. So get your bedrock correct. So these are the three things that is from my side.
Yeah. So just something more, one more thing, that is something that I tell all my trainees. Okay. When you are training, basically what you're doing is you're building up, you're constructing your own building. Okay. Your career, right? So the foundation has to be really, really strong. And to make your foundation strong, these are the aspects that you need to look into.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. We have Captain Venkat also a few words. Yes, sir.
Yeah, added to Captain Narendra and Captain Akash, we always make sure that both the guys even after the session, they should sit together at least an hour, do a practice we call as a chair flying, where who's PF and who's PM and share the responsibilities. And there are some common procedures like cockpit preparation, preliminary cockpit preparation, and all the stuff which has to be learned before going to the simulator itself. So there are certain things which we used to give the cockpit layout, and we ask them to put it on the wall or some board where 2 chairs be kept, and they will definitely have to practice every session before they are coming to even simulators. During simulator session, we cannot fall back. We cannot go back and revise what are the basic stuff which we are going to do. CPL stuff, that's why I said deciding stage itself, you need to be one up. Second, on pre-type rating stage, you need to know what is that which we have to learn and what are the manuals, what are the things. It is an introduction to the complete, documents. And during the type rating, if you want to gain more time, more knowledge, you have to practice. And a person who is having a partner, they should have a clear communication between these two. And in Airbus, when I went for the training, there is no pass or fail for an individual. The captain, first officer will be failed if they are not doing, whether the captain is not doing or the first officer is not doing. It's kind of a team thing. So it is very important that they should practice even before the session, and they should discuss, they should sit together. Right. And if they have any doubt, before the session starts itself, you are supposed to ask the instructor if they have a doubt in previous session, or even current session also. If they want to prepare something, they can always ask in the briefing stage itself.
That's a great point that you have touched over there, is the teamwork. We call it CRM, crew resource management. That's the most important stage. That's the most important quality an aviator should have it. They should know how to work as a team, and they should know how to coordinate with the other pilot, the passengers, and the cabin crew on board. So that's very important. Thank you so much for putting up that point also. With that, we go on to the last stage of our webinar. It's post type rating stage, wherein I would like to the first question I have for Max for this stage is, as for Max, right now what we have been talking about is all Indian market or the Indian aviation. Do we have any possibilities where the Indian license or where we can apply in overseas? What all things that can be taken, that has to be taken care of after being type rated? Is there any possibility to get a job in any other for overseas airline? And if yes, then what are the brief eligibility for it, if you may?
So just one final point for during the type rating stage.
Yes.
So for 5.5 years, I was part of a group, and we operated different simulator training centers around the world. I spent a lot of time there. One of the key which I always saw, which is maybe the greatest value in terms of a non-technical, non-pilot perspective, is that a simulator training center is a great meeting point of very experienced pilots with kind of new, with CPL holders, who are just about to step into this industry, into the airline industry. So one of the key recommendations that I can make is that when someone goes for their type rating, as long as it doesn't interfere with the time that there is to dedicate towards studying and towards your training, to use that time to network with and to get to know the experienced airline captains who might be SFIs in that training center, to connect with maybe people from other airlines who are also doing their simulator training there, to connect with people, airline pilots who are maybe doing their recurrency there, because I've really seen in a number of different training centers that it is this meeting spot where not only do you meet very experienced and knowledgeable airline captains, but you also meet people and you could connect with people who maybe in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years down the line are the next vice president of operations in an airline you might want to join. So kind of doing this, connecting with as many people as possible during your time in the simulator training center is I see that as quite important. For following your type rating, one of the key trends that I'm seeing is currently, according to IATA, global air traffic is at 71. In June was at 71% of what it was in 2019. So we're globally on average at again 71% of where traffic was pre-pandemic. We are already starting to see a large number of operators having gone through their pool of kind of pilots that they want to rehire, and are now getting towards the end of this pool where they've opened up again hiring application windows for new first officers. And we're seeing that all the way from the US down to Australia, like really across the world, but in some areas more than others, depending on how many months they are out of the latest wave or how many months they are out of the easing of travel restrictions. When it comes to actual opportunities for new first officers, what we're currently seeing is that there has started to be poaching by different operators of more experienced captains. Be it on wide body, be it on narrow body, ATR, really on a wide range of things, and it really varies by different countries, by different regions. But we're really starting to see a strong movement and in the number of opportunities again for captains. Now, when captains get poached out, or when captains, I shouldn't use the word poach, but when captains transition from one operator to maybe another country, it once again opens up an opportunity, as Captain Akash was saying right at the beginning, where first officers then, they're senior first officers, they have enough experience, kind of get that opportunity to be upgraded to captain. So it kind of really starts it accelerates the flow of kind of upgrades. We've seen that really, really strong in the US. And still there is a shortage with some operators of experienced captains, and in some cases even first officers as well. What is happening because of it is that US operators are recruiting pilots from Australia. They're recruiting very experienced pilots from the Middle East, from really a wide range of sectors, as long as the pilots have the ability to work in the US. The Middle East operators have also recovered extremely strongly. If you look at the Turkish, Qatar Airways, Etihad, Emirates, right? They are all already ahead of their forecast, according to what they believed was, their forecast last year. So once again, they are looking to hire more pilots. There's a couple of the really large Middle Eastern carriers who have opened up recruitment for captains and even first officers, but more experienced first officers. So once again, this will recruit pilots out of different markets, including India. What I highly recommend for anyone who's looking for job opportunities is the first thing, which is to be aware that different countries might have different nationality preferences or nationality requirements. So that's definitely something to take into consideration. But the second and third thing, which I feel anyone can do, and anyone can do on a daily basis, is the first thing is to make sure that they have a good digital presence. And Captain Narinda Upal is most probably one of the one of the people that I come across the most at on LinkedIn. He is very visible. A large part of the aviation industry knows of him, and when a large part of the aviation industry knows of him, it also means a lot of different airlines and let's say a senior vice president of operations, chief pilots, they know of him due to his digital presence, specifically on LinkedIn. And what I'm seeing, for example, in Europe, is that training organizations are also encouraging CPL holders have your digital presence, because it's not only about submitting your CV, your logbook, but having that digital that presence, for example, on LinkedIn, in order for airline captains and airlines to see you digitally and to see kind of what you're passionate about, to see that you're very knowledgeable maybe in some aspects, or that you have real interest in one thing. And that will benefit you in the long run. The second thing is really to look at, okay, where are these opportunities outside of India and inside India? And for that, I can highly recommend, there's a number of great platforms and websites which are constantly posting the latest vacancies or latest developments in the pilot in terms of airline demand.
Right.
And a couple of examples of that is AFM.aero, Simply Flying, CH Aviation, LinkedIn. The airlines are becoming much more active. So following all of the airlines on LinkedIn,
True,
they are definitely posting job posts there.
That's correct. It's a very important thing. I mean, thanks to LinkedIn, I got in touch with all of you, and that's how I was able to invite you all on this webinar. So LinkedIn is always a very powerful platform that you need to be active on. Now, the very last question and the most important question that I would like to put to all the captains on the panel over here is, now that I've done my type rating, I have finished, I've got my endorsement, and I'm calling myself an air-rated pilot. But what is more important is keeping that knowledge updated or being with that knowledge. If I've studied 320, it's very important to be aware of knowing 320, because if I'm calling myself a 320 rated, I should be knowing about 320 more of it. Maybe not the very detailed one, but at least a good overview. So what are the two suggestions that you would like to give to all our audience over here after finishing the type rating? What are the two things that they should do to keep up that knowledge? We can start with Captain Venkat if he has anything. Yes, sir.
Yeah. The first and foremost thing after finishing the type rating, even though the people had a LOI in the past experience, in Indigo I have seen the waiting time is about 1 year. By then, their validity, everything was lapsed.
Correct.
So, what my recommendation is, it is not that you got the type rating that you are going to own the Airbus, but you need to constantly revise your subject first internally, and what are the things they have undergone during the training.
Correct.
There are certain CBTs are available, so they can go through the CBTs for systems, and they should practice performance. They have some kind of a software.
Right.
And also to have practice, these days you have some FMGC trainer is there.
That's
it's
correct.
all in cheaper price. Then you can practice. And also I recommend those people should do some instrument flying. And even when we are doing, even to the Microsoft simulator with 320, which you can amalgamate and you start doing certain things.
Right.
So what happens is that getting evaporated is pretty easy if you are not practicing it.
Very true.
So it's something which in practice is perfect. So what I recommend is, if they have a chance, if they are associated with some other captains or some other senior first officer or their own batchman, start interacting with them, start discussing something like what Max was saying, that in the TRTO, when you are meeting somebody in the coffee meeting or in some of the places, common places. Likewise,
Right.
I recommend people should be in touch with the seniors. Also, they can be in touch with their own instructors if they can able to do this.
Correct.
Otherwise, what is going to happen? That they will go and do everything will be looking fresh because they are not flying at all. I have seen a guy I have trained them in Etihad. The same guy has come to CSTPL. I am training the same guy. I could see the marked difference, and his performance is very low
It's true.
because he has lost touch. So it is a dangerous situation. After finishing the type rating, you wait, and if everything evaporates, that's the end of the story.
Right.
So to keep in touch, I always recommend, as far as 320 is concerned, up to 1,500 hours, your Bible is the flight crew technique manual. Every day you start going, Puneet, I know you're laughing,
No.
but that is
that's
that is to
absolutely right,
you
sir.
also.
No. That's absolutely right.
That is number
Very
one.
important. Very
Number
important.
two, whenever somebody is doing the sim, when he is preparing, sit with him and try and recube so that it will be easier for you to revive. So even as an instructor, I always sit with another instructor when he is coaching, when he is doing something. I have to pick up something which it is required. So here it's a constant updation and constant touch. It is not that once you have done the type rating that you have acquired the experience. Unless until you practice
Correct.
at least minimum about 1,000 hours, you will settle in the aircraft.
Makes sense.
So my summation, to cut it short, that you need to revise in various means of things are there. Please go ahead, and you need to revise as a post type rating stage, which is, even you get the LOI, it's not the Indigo is not taking even the waiting period is 1 year now.
It's a long period.
Yes.
Anything, sir, Captain?
Over to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any inputs from Captain Narendra, sir? Do you have any input for the situation? It's a very critical situation. So, what 2 things would you like to suggest to all our 3 things? Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, 3 things. Firstly, as Captain Venkat has also said, chair flying. Do not lose touch with flying. The only way to fly when you are not actually flying is chair flying. So that means sit on your chair, get your partner along, open the your layout of the airplane that you have done rating, and start doing your procedures. Okay, I myself, having flown for 35 years, when I did not fly during pandemic for about 5 years, I was fumbling in the cockpit. After having done the simulator again, because it takes some time to get back to flying. It is not easy. So the person who's taking the check or who's taking you into the airline, he's also aware of it, but still your performance makes a difference. So the only way to come up is do chair flying.
Correct.
Second thing is that whatever studies you do before simulator, whatever practice you do during the simulator, when the simulator is over, your knowledge acquiring does not stop. After having flown Airbus only 8 years, I still find new things in the FCOM and FCTM every second day. So the knowledge does not stop. Please read your FCTM, FCOM again and again. The third thing, in case you have not taken an LOI and you've gone on your own for your your rating and you are waiting for the airline interview, again get back to the basics, and read the very basic, because in the airline interview he is going to ask you what you have already done. That means he will try and check your knowledge, whether you take mark on that knowledge or not. And if you took mark, then he will put you into simulator and do the simulator check before he takes you into the airline. Of course, at Cruise Aviation, we do help people for airline interview also. We make them practice. We make them ready for the airline also. So at the end of it, basically staying in touch with what you have done and the depth of knowledge increasing with the day will save you.
Right. Thank you so much for these 3 great inputs. Captain Akash, would you like to add anything to these inputs of this critical situation?
Well, Captain Venkat and Captain Uppal have already covered the major aspects. I would just like to share something that is personal experience of mine. So I decided to become a pilot in 1992. I wanted to be a pilot. Uh, I didn't know how to go about it, what to do. But the basic idea at that time for me was that you learn to fly and that's it. Okay. So that was one way of getting rid of the books for me. I was not so keen on studying and becoming an engineer and getting to be a doctor or something like that. Okay, so it was I compared it with driving a car. Okay, once you learn how to drive a car, you don't have to look into any manuals. You don't have to study much further. You just take up a job and that's it, right? So it's the same thing that I applied here, and that was call it a mistake or that was the biggest eye opener for me, but I have been studying every single day since 1999. That's when I got my CPL. And 2006, it started escalating, every single day because I got a job after that. So, yeah. So that is one thing that you need to, tune your mindset that this is one thing you will not be able to get rid of until the day you are going to hang up your boots. Okay? So that is something really important that I want to share. And I was under the misconception. So if anybody else is, please get rid of it right now. Okay? Yeah. Apart from that, already covered the post-type rating stage. Now, this is the most anxious kind of stage, the most nervous stage, because you've done your bit, you've done your type rating, you've spent the money, you've prepared as much as you could. Now you are entering into that gray area where you will be actually, applying for a job, and now you don't know what to anticipate and how things are going to go about. So it's always a good idea to be in touch with people who are already in the airline business. Okay, like Captain Venkat said. So be in touch with seniors, with people try and develop some communication and links going. Every operator, everybody has a defined way of inducting pilots.
Right.
Okay, so the processes are defined at least. Yeah. You might not know the intricate processes exactly, but at least, you know that, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'll be giving a written exam first, and then I'll be undergoing an interview, and then I'll have a sim check.
Got it.
So these things. So you need to understand what are the processes for these particular airlines, and you need to start preparing for them right now. Okay. Like I tell my first officers that you don't become a captain once you get an ATPL. Right.
Correct.
The process starts from the day you are released on that right-hand seat as a first officer. The process of becoming a captain starts right from then. Okay. So it's the same thing here. Now that you've got your type rating, you have to assume that now you are going to become a first officer very soon, and you need to keep preparing in that direction. Okay. And like Captain Muppal and Captain Venkat said, that these are the main aspects. The written exam, if you are a type-rated guy, obviously it's going to be aircraft related. So you need to know your systems, you need to know your memory items, you need to know your limitations, you need to know your performance data. Okay, so these are the main aspects which will be covered in the written exam. Interview is something which is more personal. So something about you, something about how you put things across, how you approach a particular topic, what's your attitude, that's basically something that an airline looks at, because you don't want somebody who's too aggressive, somebody who's too submissive, slipping into the system. And the last is basically the sim check. So sim check is the same thing. You will be given certain emergencies, and you will be assessed on how you deal with the situations that are given to you. So again, that is all about multitasking. So this is something that you need to bear in mind and keep revising and reviewing all these steps and procedures until you get that entry.
Thank you so much, sir, for this. I feel now I have myself learned a lot of things at this end of the webinar. So now I clearly know what has to be done at what stage and what is the critical situation and what are the critical steps that I need to take. Yes, sir.
You'll be still in for surprises. Don't think that you know it all right now. There will be surprises which will come up your way. So just be aware and be prepared for something that is unknown. Okay.
That's correct. I mean, that's very well put. Said no one knows the whole path of it, right? But yes, thank you so much for this great insight that we have shared over here. I feel we have covered a lot of area for with the topic onto the type reading. Before we end the webinar, I would like if anyone from the audience would like to put any questions, they are free to put it, and we'll put this. I'll ask these questions to all the panelists. So first question we have is Sachin is, I am a FAA CPL holder. Is it a good option to go for CFI to gain some experience and later work in US Airlines? After that, apply in India directly for captain position. Do we have anyone who would like to throw some light on this answer? On this question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Let me answer this.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
See, getting into FAA and CFI is one thing, and getting into the airline in the US is another thing. It's totally two different aspects. You cannot mix up. It is not that guarantee in the US that you have a CFI, you will get the job. I have seen the experience, guys, because I myself am an FAA holder and also Canadian, both the rating I have. But that is some misconception is there. But you can build up the hours for your, one advantage is you can build up the hours for your ATPL. But experience in having single engine aircraft, as long as possible you limit for a multi-engine type.
Correct.
Otherwise what happens is you will pick up the bad habits.
Right.
I'm not saying that single engine aircraft is bad as such, but we are all started with single engine. But for the airline flying, as long as you are coming for a single pilot concept, which is you are going to fly the robo very shortly. So these things. So what I recommend is, but getting into Indian aviation pilot, at least if you have a ATPL with some kind of a type rating, even that also to get into India, you need to do some conversion process. I think Captain Narendra and Captain Akash will agree with me. Getting into Indian conversion, this is something which is a very, very difficult task, which they may agree with me. So try and get the Indian license, then go out. That is a good option, rather than getting an FA and coming into. If you have an FA ATPL, that is not going to fetch you anything. Probably the experience part of ours part, rather than conversion is totally different. So please don't jump into any conclusion. But you want to stay in the US and continue, you can do that. But conversion from one place to another, it is something which your luck. Simple as that.
Right, sir.
I am very, very plain on.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope Sachin has got the answer for his question. Next we have Pallavi. Is there any extra teaching that is required before the type rating? Is there anything that we have to do? Is it necessary for it? Do we have if anyone would like to throw some light on it?
What exactly is the question?
So the question is there any training that has to be taken before you go for type rating? There's pre-type rating sessions or something. Are those things required? Is it necessary?
Okay. So it's like this, you got to prepare well before you go. How you do is your option. First option is that you catch hold of a person who is flying the same aeroplane, your uncle, your bhabhi, your bhaiya, anybody. You take their help and prepare for it. If you have nobody, or if you want a professional help, do come to, like we are also providing. You can take classes that will prepare you for the simulator. If you are smart enough, I won't use the word smart enough, but if you can read on your own, the problem comes actually, the A320 manuals are not very easily written manuals. It are more to do with, as if a lawyer has written a very, very legal language. So it's not easy to decipher. So if you take some help of somebody, it will definitely, push you through many, many hurdles, that will come through way. CBT, of course, is one thing which every TRT will give you, but CBT itself does not solve all the problems. That only tells you the story of it. But how to go about it, still there is a, question mark. I'm sure rest of the people who have done 320 rating, they will agree with me that you need some help before you go.
Right, sir. That's very true, sir. Makes sense. Next question we have is Sachika. She's asking, is there any openings for non-typewriters going to be there, or is it a dead end for it? How does the market looks like for the non-typewritten people? That's a very difficult question and very difficult to answer it.
No,
I had made a video earlier that why airline take people who have done the type rating. Simple reason is, if I am an airliner, if I am the HR, if I am the person in the HR who has to, hire people, during pandemic, I wanted to delay my decision to hire as late as possible so that I am more aware of the situation. Even today, when the pandemic is almost over, I do not want to hire somebody, now and probably start planning for him, start looking for SIM slot, which are not easy to get. There is so many hassles. If somebody says I have done everything, I am ready, so it's easier for me to, take him on board. So definitely people will prefer who have done the type rating. The second step comes is, suppose there are no people available in the type rating, then they will come down to the second step, which is giving a LOI. That means they say, okay, we'll hire you, you please go and do your rating and then come back. And last, of course, is when the airline has to do everything on its own, which is the last option, because then their reaction time increases many months, because it takes for an airline good about 6 months to tie up and send you for an type rating, do your type rating, come back, get the endorsement. All that time is cut down the moment you say, okay, I have my type rating on the license. So obviously a type rating person is there.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you so much. Next question we have. Yes, sir.
Just Puneet, just to add to that, and I know this is a bit unrelated because we're discussing today about type rating and about the pathway to the cockpit of an airline. But what we're seeing quite extensively is that the demand from training academies for instructors is going up tremendously. So there is flight training organizations. There's a number of new flight training organizations in India and within the region who are all ramping up again. And a large number of flight training organizations, they're also seeing that quite a few of their instructors are quitting, dropping out to go to do their type rating to apply to the airline, which once again is opening up job opportunities. And maybe there's some CPL holders, or maybe there's some pilots here on the webinar with us today who are looking for a job to earn an income from from flying and from teaching others. So I would just like to answer that part of the question, that there are more and more opportunities for CPL holders to become instructors, not only within India, but also in the wider region. So we know of flight schools which were looking to hire an extremely large number of flight instructors here, like in the Middle East, Indian subcontinent region.
Thank you so much. Next question we have is we have Aditya who's saying, I'm a CAA CPL holder with instructor rating 1000 plus, undergoing Indian conversion. Should I go for type rating or should I go for my old job? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
So definitely, if you like, I wanted to add earlier also, if you are a CPL with 200 hours and type rating, there's another guy who is CPL with type rating another 1000 hours. Wherever he has done it, he is step ahead of you. Simple. Correct. Every hour you add puts you ahead of the people who have not done the flying. So ultimately, Like if you meet somebody, he's asking what is your name. Second thing, how many hours you have. So your value is how many hours you have. Third thing, he asks which aeroplane. So if you are doing flying and adding hours to your kitty, it's definitely a better option. And if you are at par with a guy who has just done the type rating.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Next question we have from Siddharth. Sir, I am 30 and hold an AFI rating. I am very confused because age criteria has been reduced by many airlines. So, what do you think my my option should be? Should I go for type rating? Should I go for airline, or should I continue in the flying club itself? Anyone would like to throw some light on this question? Maybe, like, yes, sir.
Okay. See, sometime back, one of the company had asked. They had asked for the normal, requirement plus he should be a graduate.
Right.
Now, why a graduation has come? Basically, it is, hurdles to reduce the number of applications which are reaching. Or in other words, you can say demand and supply. If the supply is more, demand is less, he'll start putting conditions. For example, 1,000 hours, or you put 30 years of age, or 40 years of age, or graduate, or maybe postgraduate also. Next time probably postgraduate in English also. So these are only hurdles to reduce the number of applicants who reach you, so that it's easier for them to pick up the guys.
There was recent vacancy of another airline where they made instrument rating as a compulsory eligibility for the for giving an examination. So I feel this is one of the hurdles that you're talking about. Correct. Arpan says, should we wait for non-typed vacancies, or would it be wise to go for TR and then apply? I mean, I feel we have answered that question. Next is Mohit has asked that he's 32 and all the recent jobs are of 30. So would you like to give any suggestions to these people? Like, there are few people that have asked, they're 30 and 30 plus and all, and now the airlines have reduced their age criteria. So what suggestions would you like to give to them if they want to be in aviation and they want to continue being as a pilot? What would you like to suggest them? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
One option is this, guys, once you start reaching the age of 28, 29 itself, please get hold of some flying club, start building hours, be a AFI. That is where the savior comes. Then you can build up the hours. So the age versus hours, you can, it is a proportional, it is inversely proportional. So the more, it is a directly proportional, sorry. So if the age is more and if you have more hours, there will be some chances for you to get into the airline, and also try and do the airline job. Not necessarily that you have to join as a pilot. Join as a dispatcher and get the 3 years, 4 years, some for the staff. They give some kind of a concessions. So these are the opportunities. I'm not, 100% I will not be right in this case, but there are some time. I have suggested one guy who was exactly 29th year, 364th day. He joined as a dispatcher with the CPL, and he got 5 years and he became a pilot, and he retired now.
Super.
So sometimes you can leave the elephant and catch the tail.
See,
so sometimes these are the options, but I am not saying that it is going to be a constant thing. Opportunities, it differs. And even in 2007, I think there are a lot of people who are over 35, they got a job along with me. My example, I joined as a pilot at the age of 52.
Correct. That's true.
This age limitation is not sacrosanct. It is not that henceforth every year or henceforth airlines will take only if you are 30. It is only temporary phenomena. Indian market is going to go so fast. Even if you are 40, they will take you.
Correct.
One thing. Second thing is that I always say a person active in flying is better than any other person. So if you are continuing to fly, as Captain Venki said, your age will get mitigated by the number of hours you have. More hours you have, they will still, give you a concession. I became an airline pilot at the age of 48. Before that, I was flying for general aviation. Before that, I was flying in the Air Force.
Correct.
So my only thing is I was always in aviation. So be in aviation, be in the cockpit. That
Correct.
is the first preference. If a airline not possible, general aviation not possible, training academy or somewhere, that's the best option that you have.
Perfect. Thank you so much for these inputs.
Yeah.
I suppose
Puneet,
that-
if I can just add to that as well, something that we've been seeing just to really address the age component. It's exactly as Captain Narinda has said. It's always dependent on supply and demand for pilots. So we've seen commercial pilot license holders join airlines. We before the pandemic, we knew of airlines which had no age restriction, where the primary criteria was really the medical, the number of hours, and so I think in 2018 or 2019, I saw like one of the people that I know quite well. So he joined an airline as a first officer at 52 years old. So
I feel
there's
that
really that.
age number is just for the temporary basis. That's maybe.
It all depends on the demand for pilots.
Before we continue, I'd like to thank Captain Akash. He has a flight to take up, and he has to fly somewhere. So I would like to thank Captain Akash a lot for coming in. It's a great pleasure for everyone having questions, and I'm getting to hear you and getting your insights on this webinar. Thank you so much, sir, for coming in, and I hope we stay in touch for future reference also. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh yes, definitely. The pleasure was all mine. Trust me. Whatever little bit I have been able to share with you guys is, I hope I have been able to shed some kind of light. And anyways, anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'm sure they can do it through you, Puneet. And
Yes.
you can share my contact details, and I'm always willing and able to guide. Okay.
Done.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
So-
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I guess Yogesh has got one particular question just for me, is it? No?
Yes, I suppose it.
Hello, sir. Am
Yeah.
I audible?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, sir. And my name is Yogesh Yadav, and currently I'm unemployed, and I have 3,800 hours in my pocket, and that is on Q400. And you know where I come from. So, is there any opening in coming future for me as a captain? Because I have 620 hours of captain on Q400, or should I go for type rating of 320 or 737, whichever preferable?
Okay, Yogesh, quickly, if I can just tell you that if there is a vacancy or not as a captain for you is something that is not beyond is beyond my reach or scope of answering. Actually, that is something for an operator. Once they advertise any vacancies, that's when you get to know. Regarding going for a type rating, well, yes, that's what the discussion is about. So if you want, you can. But I believe you already have some turboprop experience, which will help you. Okay, that's how I look at it.
Okay.
Okay. So meanwhile, thank you so much, guys. I would really love to keep in touch with everybody, and I'll see you. And thanks to all the panelists, Max, Captain Upal, and
Thank
Captain
you, Akash.
Venkat. Thank you so much. Lovely talking to you and meeting you all.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank you so much, sir.
Akash.
Yes.
All right.
And
Bye-bye.
just one more thing to add to Yogesh's question. Yogesh, when the hiring
Yes, sir.
starts, you will be the number one to get hired. Okay, because there are captains who are already flying as captain in a different aeroplane, maybe turboprop or something. So you'll be
but-
number one.
Right.
But as of now, I'm not able to see any future coming up. So that's why I was much more curious about should I go for type rating of 320 or not regarding that, because I already have near about 4,000 hours.
No, I as I said, the things are changing, and as I said, you will be in the top, bracket when the hiring starts.
Correct. Next.
Thank you very much, sir. Sure.
And Puneet, I have a
Um,
question also, if I can ask.
Yes, Kevin.
Thank you. So my name is Kevin. I have a question for Max. Max, could you please elaborate a little bit more about the instructor topic that you mentioned shortly? How can I get into the instructor segment, and specifically like a CFI instructor or MCC instructor without being any without having any experience as an instructor? My experience is type rated 737 and 320 with 4,000 hours in Europe.
Yeah, so for that specifically, what we're seeing quite extensively at the moment, and especially for people such as yourself who already have significant experience, is just like with the airlines, the flight training industry is recovering out of the pandemic. They are scaling back up their training infrastructure, the number of instructors that they have. And so what I would recommend, due to most training organizations not having huge hiring departments such as an airline, to proactively reach out to training organizations where you can see that they are growing, to share with them your CV proactively. And then I've seen cases where organizations will provide you with the training and then kind of maybe bond you, but it is a much more proactive approach than it is with airlines, due to most training organizations being much smaller than airlines.
All right, thank you. And just a short follow-up question: what does the data show for the specific Europe region when it comes to airline pilots? Is it more pilots, taking those type ratings and seeking jobs compared to, 5-10 years ago? How does the market look, and what is your, so to say, what do you see in the crystal ball, for the future?
So what we're seeing specifically is when we look at the different markets across the world. In North America, we have a huge retirement wave of experienced airline captains. So this retirement wave, which was accelerated through the pandemic, has driven a lot of demand for pilots to join airlines again. Europe has been relatively stable. We expect to see actually the most growth, just like how it was before the pandemic, in the Asia Pacific region, and specifically, if you look at countries, India, Vietnam, Indonesia, the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, which is really adding a lot of aircraft. So I think it's really important for everyone to remember that we're only around 6 months out of the latest kind of wave, the Omicron wave. So it is taking time for the aviation industry to recover and to kind of scale up to the amount of traffic that it was doing in 2019, but we see most of the growth opportunities will be heavily focused towards India, Asia Pacific, Middle East, which is also supported by, if you look at any of the reports for pilot demand from Boeing, Airbus, or CAE, you can see that is where the largest number of pilots will be required in the next decade.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Max, for those insights. With that, I feel we are done with the questions. But before that, I'll just like to thank everyone over here, panelists especially, for taking out that time. Captain Venkat, it's about what, 3 or 4 o'clock over there in the morning, and he's still there. That is the excitement, and that's the dedication that one has for aviation and to help everyone. So I would like to thank Captain Venkat, I would like to thank Max, I would like to thank Captain Narendra sir. It's a great pleasure to have you all over here, and thank you so much for joining in. I hope we stay in touch with the rest of the live, and I'll see you soon in the air. Thank you so much for joining in, sir. Thank you so much.
So, final word from me to all the best to all the guys who are going for the type rating. My best wishes, and any time you need, please contact through Puneet. So I'll be, whatever help I can extend. And Narendra ji, we will get in touch with each other.
Same, sir.
And Max, definitely we will look forward to have a hello to you. And of course, Akash, I know how to, get in touch with him because he's a friendly airline from me. It's okay.
Thanks everybody. Thanks,
All
sir.
the
Thanks
best.
everybody.
Namaskar.
And
Thank you very
I'm
much.
already in touch with Max through courtesy LinkedIn, and I will of course contact Venki sir also very soon. And all the people who are on this webinar, I want to tell them, you want any advice or any help or any direction, please, come to me through LinkedIn, or you can join my, YouTube channel also, The Fighter Boy, or whichever way, I am available. And whatever inputs or advice I have, definitely I'll provide you anytime.
Done.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Puneet.
much.
Thanks, Puneet, for all this.
Thank you, Venkat. Thank you.
And also, from my side, to the other panelists, it is really amazing to see all of the experience you have. This is what I love about the aviation industry and about pilots specifically. They're so passionate about what they do and they love to share information. I know for anyone joining this industry, it can be quite intimidating initially with all the acronyms, with all the technical words, but there's almost no industry like it where very experienced professionals are very keen to share their knowledge with young people or new people which want to join the industry. And so I would just like to say as well, as a final word from my side, just like the other panelists, we would love to help and share as much knowledge as we can, everything that we've gathered. And I know there has been a lot of interest in kind of a list of all simulator training centers which are currently offering simulator training for the Indian market globally. So if anyone is interested to receive such a list, what we'll do is we'll prepare it today or tomorrow and we'll send it to everyone. So if you can just send an email to max@afm.aero, and we will create the list and we'll send it to everyone so that everyone can see all of the options that they can consider when maybe selecting a specific type rating.
Thank you so much, Max. And before we leave, can we have a small selfie for all of us? If everyone is okay, can you please switch on your camera? And we'll just have a